This is the Vet Voice podcast of the Veterans for America First. And I'm Jerry Craig, the host of the podcast. I have the pleasure to speak with Stoney Mathis today, who is a Georgia House candidate for Georgia's Congressional District 68. And Stoney, would you please tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Stoney Mathis, and I am not a politician. I'm a police officer. Been a police officer for about 29 years. I went to a military school at Fort Sill, Oklahoma called Cameron University. After I graduated from Cameron, I moved to Georgia and became a police officer. 29 years later, here I am. And I've got a master's degree in public administration. I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I've been to some of the most prestigious leadership law enforcement courses in the country. And when all this came around with the defunding the police, and every Democratic city that defunded the police, crime skyrocketed, Atlanta being one of them. They come up with a lot of different names for it. They didn't quite say defund after it. They started getting some ridicule with the crime going up. So what they started doing is, if you were short 3 or 4 police officers, instead of saying they're going to defund you, they just eliminated those 4 or 5 positions that you were short. So me and my wife was at a conservative think tank called the Council for National Policy, and some of the speakers were telling us that throughout the last 25 years, Republicans have just paid their taxes, cleaned their house, mowed their grass, and have not ran for public office, and that a lot of the Democrats have ran for public office and have taken over our local school boards, our city councils, our mayors, and our state representatives. So they encouraged more Christian conservatives to run for office. So me and my wife went home and we talked about it, and I was coming up on where I was thinking about retiring anyway. And so I decided, you know what? Now's the time. With all this defunding the police, who better have it at the state legislature than a retired police officer? So that's when I decided to run for office.
Well, I'll tell you that it takes a special kind of person to put themselves up to run for office. And that's why we're proud to endorse you from Veterans for America First. And I also want to be congratulatory that you passed and had the primary election. So that's 2 big feathers in your cap. And I think that your seat currently is held by a Democrat. You spoke, correct?
Well, this is pretty cool, because when my wife started looking at this, it was a brand new district. District 68 was a brand new district. There's no incumbent, and the person that held the majority of this district, which I think it's old District 73, is not running again. So
That's Philip Singleton.
Pardon me?
Was that Philip Singleton's previous
No,
district?
Derek Jackson.
Derek Jackson. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, to get to the general election, what we want to do is have all the voters informed as to who their options are. So go through your policies, how you envision your platform and for your district, and what you intend to do.
Well, a couple of things I'd like to focus on is crime. Crime throughout the nation is out of control, but right here in Metro Atlanta, Atlanta's crime rate has went up about 400%. So it's seeping down into the outer communities. And if we don't prepare for it, if the state legislature don't work with the local police chiefs and the local sheriffs and come up with a plan, we're going to be just like Chicago. All the suburban areas are going to be crime infested, just like some of these other states. So we need to work with the legislation. As a police chief, I work with the local elected officials all the time. We never really worked with the state legislatures, simply because we didn't know what they could offer us, and they probably don't know what they can offer us as police chiefs. Well, I know, I've been there, and I just want to continue to serve the public as a state legislature, and I can work with the local police chiefs and the local sheriff's department to combat crime. I sat on the Georgia Chiefs of Police Executive Board for a couple of years, so I know just about every police chief in the state. And I think the legislature's working with the local police chiefs is a win-win for both the citizens and the legislature.
Well, it sounds like you're not going to be a fish out of water here. You already know the workers, or the working model. You know the people involved at the ground level. And how long have you worked as a police officer in this area?
I was at Henry County for 20 years, and then I was the police chief in Chattahoochee Hills, which is in South Fulton County. And then the last 3.5 years, I've been the police chief in Fairburn.
So you know the shortcomings of the recent funding and the conflicts you have in front of you. You're not necessarily having to do on the job training.
No, and Greg, here's the most important thing about it. There is a way to fight crime, and it's not heavy enforcement. It's both enforcement and building a relationship with the community. If you were to Google the dangerous cities in the state of Georgia, you would probably get East Point, College Park, Hateville, or something right in that area. But if you Google the safest cities in 2022 in the state of Georgia, you're going to get Tyrone, Peachtree City, and you're also going to find Fairburn in there. Almost the 4 years I was at Fairburn, we reduced our crime rate by 52%. And it was 100% just building relationships with the communities that we serve.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. If there were some of our listeners who want to learn more about your campaign and potentially donate some money and volunteer for your purpose, how could they get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to stonyforstatehouse.com. If they go to stonyforstatehouse.com, I got about 6 videos on there that tells a little bit more about my platform. But the most important thing they can do for me, Greg, is just pray for me.
There's a lot to be said about that. The power of prayer is a very powerful tool to have. And I appreciate, do you have any other social media sites besides your website, or do you have any office numbers or anything you'd also like to share?
They can get all that off my website, but they can also go to my Facebook page, Stoney Mathis for State House.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you under the Golden Dome, and hopefully after you win this election, you can come back on the show.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless.